Good morning and welcome to today's InDesign session, where today we're going to look at a simple magazine design where we will design a magazine cover as well as the internal spread for that magazine too. By the end of the session you should be able to create your own pages from scratch, so inputting the correct sizes as well as inputting the correct margins and bleed areas. You'll work with layout columns as well. You'll learn about some shapes and inputting images into those shapes as well. You'll navigate how to insert page numbers too, and we'll also look at master pages within InDesign also. So we'll just get straight into the session today. You're also welcome to use other platforms such as the ones that have been recommended, such as Lucidpress and Microsoft Publisher. So to get started with InDesign, I would like you to navigate and load up the application. That will vary its location, whether you're on a Mac or a PC. But once you have loaded it up, you should be welcomed with this screen. And for this step, I would just like you to select the Create New for us to then start inputting the correct sizes and naming our project file. So on this occasion, I'm just going to call mine Art and Culture Demonstration. You can call it, whatever you like. And we just need to make sure that we've got the correct information here at the start. So we are looking for a 210 millimeters in terms of its width, and the height we require 297 millimeters. So that is also correct. What we're also looking for is 3 pages on this occasion. And because we're looking at a magazine spread, we are looking to make sure that this box is also selected for facing pages, so that we will have that opening and closing ability within the piece as well. In terms of the margins, we're looking for 12.7 to be listed there, and the bleed and slug, we're actually looking to make sure that's set to 3. Okay, and that should be throughout them all, so just make sure that you've got that before proceeding any further, and then hit create. In a moment your full page. Now that we're actually inside our document, I thought we would start with explaining what these lines actually are and how important they are. So this outside line here is what we refer to as your bleed line. And a bleed line occurs when an image or element on a page touches the edge of that page, extending beyond the trim edge. So if this was actually going to print and it was going to be distributed, perhaps the people buying them, then that's the section where anything out with that, obviously the reader's not going to be able to actually see. Whereas this one here is our margin line, so that becomes really important for containing our information within the margins to keep everything looking nice and polished essentially. Just so you're aware, you will have some assets that you will need to download as part of making this project. So you can actually download them from the Teams area under the Files tab, and they are also located within the Contents area of the class notebook. And I've created a section called Art and Culture Magazine, so they can be downloaded from there. Please make sure that you download them and store them into an actual folder within your hard drive. Because they will become essential, and you'll need to make sure that all the project files are kept together, and don't delete them at any point, otherwise you'll get broken links within your project here. So to get started, the first thing we're going to look at is the use of master pages. And master pages is a non-printing page that you can basically customize and use as a template for the rest of your document. So that could contain graphical elements, it could be used for headers, it could be used for footers and page numbers and elements like that. So that's what we're going to do to start with. We're going to access our master pages by going up to the pages area on the right hand side, and then I'm going to select master pages. And now that I'm inside the master pages, I'm going to navigate myself and actually create my page numbers essentially. So to do that, we need to use the type tool. So I just create a very small box for that. And now that my cursor is actually active within that area, I should then be able to go up to Type, Insert Special Character, Marker, and I'm going to use the current page number option. And on this occasion, you'll notice that it just comes up with an A. Once we've exited the master pages area, it will basically list it correctly, so don't worry too much about that. But I obviously want to have my page numbers appearing at both sides of my spread. So I'm going to use my direction tool, and I'm basically going to copy this. So on a Mac, I'm basically using Option and then just dragging it, and then I will basically be able to bring it over to this side. And you can see the guides actually snap here in the blue, and that's telling me that everything is aligned correctly. So I'm just going to lay it down there. But what we can see is obviously that the A doesn't quite look right. It should really be right aligned. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got that selected, and then up at the top, you know, I would have the options of being able to align, center, or right. So I'm going to align it right today, okay? And then once we exit out here, we would essentially be able to see these page numbers. But before I exit, what I do want to do is experiment with just adding a little extra touch and maybe put in a line across these pages just to kind of give it an extra look. So to do that, I basically use the line tool, and then I'm going to use Shift at the same time, because that will make sure that my line is straight. If you're maybe somebody that doesn't have the best of eye, then you can use that as an option. And then what I want to make sure that I've done is choose an appropriate colour of my choice. So for example, what I could do is, let's just choose a random pink colour there, and we could change the weight of that as well, as you see. I probably won't use pink as my final colour. Why don't we make a nice black? Okay, we can always change this at another point. And again, what I could do with this is actually just copy this over by, again, using the option on the Mac and then just bringing it straight over. And again, we can see the guides appearing to let us know that it's straight. Now what you will find you'll need to do is come out of your master pages just to check how it's looking, because it might well be that you might need to make the occasional tweak to it. So let's go and have a wee look to see what it's looking like. I suspect we'll need to alter it ever so slightly. Yes, so as I thought, it's kind of looking a little bit too close to the numbers. So I probably want to go back into these master pages and make some changes. So I think what I'll do is actually just bring down my page number by a couple of points. So I've just moved that by 3 points there. And then I should be able to do the exact same at the other side. So just make sure that you've got that. Okay. And then once you've come out your master pages, again, you should be able to see that there's a slight difference there in terms of how it's actually appearing there. Again, you could choose a different colour of your line if you like. I'm just doing this obviously for demonstration purposes. Okay, so that's how you basically use your master pages. Obviously you can do this slightly different for your own design, but that's to provide you with an overview of master pages. But it is really important that once you've finished inputting from the master pages that you make sure that you exit the master page, otherwise you'll run into problems later. So make sure that you're coming back in to your normal pages over here. Okay. We're going to start by creating our front cover of our magazine. So just to point out, what we're going to make sure we've actually got here is within our layers area, similar to things like Photoshop and things, we can actually create new layers for each section. So on this one, I'm just going to have layer 1, and as we progress through the rest of the magazine, we may well create other layers also. So to get started, what we want to do is basically bring our main cover image onto the page. So how we're going to do that is using this rectangular frame tool, and I'm just going to basically draw a frame all the way over my page, and now I need to get my image in there. So to actually do that, all I do is essentially basically go up to the menu options up here, and I'm looking for place, and then once that's came up, I need to navigate to where I've stored my work in my actual asset files, and that is within the InDesign folder for me. And then I'm looking for Art and Culture magazine, and then in here I'm looking for the real file, and that's going to open up, and at the moment you can see it's kind of looking a little bit small. So that's where we need to basically go to our object and fitting, and then go through the different options that's available to us to see which one's going to work best for us. So on this occasion I've basically been able to use that first one, which is fill frame proportionally. Different images and different shapes boxes, would vary, so I would recommend that you try each out to see what works for you in your own designs. So that's our main image in. So now what we need to actually do is create our text boxes, and we're going to do that just now. Now that we've got our main image into our front page, it's time to start inputting our main type. So we're going to start with the actual heading of the magazine, which is Art and Culture. So to do that, I'm just going to go and select the actual type tool on the left hand pane, and then I'm going to just simply draw a text box, and then I'm just going to type out the actual word itself, so art, and then using the @ symbol. Now for the first section of this, I'm going to actually just highlight it all and then make sure that I've got the appropriate font size and things. So font size for this one, I've chosen to have it at 60. And then I'm also going to look here at my leading just to make sure that I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to leave it as it is at 72, but we may adjust that as we move forward once we include the other word for culture. So at the moment, I'm just going to basically pop that over onto the main area itself. I'm going to actually use the lines in here, the margin lines and things, to actually help with my alignment. Now, as you can see, we can't really see what it says just now, and that's because we still need to actually change the colour here. So I want to make sure that I've highlighted my actual text, and then using this selection tool here to actually change the colour of it. I can obviously select different colours that I've already got preloaded in here, or what I could do is, what we're going to do is use this tool here, which is the eyedrop tool, to actually select a new colour. And I'm going to actually use another colour that's within the image itself. So that's what we're going to do. So make sure you've got that selected. If you want to use shortcuts, then the selection that you should be using is using the I on your keyboard to bring that up. So once you have that dropper tool there, select on the actual page itself where your picture is on a part of the photograph that you want to change the colour to. And now I can see that it's selected the correct colour. So I'm quite happy with that, so I'm going to leave that as it is for the moment. And you can see that with that box, if you double click on the corners, it just draws it back in to how you've actually aligned all the text as well, just to tighten everything up again. So now what we're going to do is bring in a new text box, just so we can add in our last word from the title, which is culture. So I'm just going to type that out. And again, I'm just going to kind of alter my font size and just double check my leading. So for this one, in terms of the font size that I'm looking for culture, I had it down as 100. So you can see it only goes to 72 at the moment, but what we can actually do is kind of increase that. And it may well be when we actually pop it into the magazine itself, we may even decide to actually change that as well. But I'll pop it in at 100 just now. Now you can see it's actually hyphenating here, and there's obviously a red symbol here, and that's to identify to us that actually the text is too big for the actual box that I've created. So that means I need to extend this box. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can actually pop it in here. And again, what I'll just do is I'm just going to double click that just to bring it in nice and tight to fit the text itself. Now with this as well, I need to consider, am I happy with the colours and things? And for me, I feel like I want to actually make this second part of the heading a different colour, so I would like to change that to white. So just make sure that you highlight it all, and then again, using your colour here for your text, I'm going to change it and I'm going to use the paper for white basically. So that brings that in, and I'm kind of fairly happy with it, but I just want to check that I've got all the correct fonts because I may have forgotten to change it over. And as I suspected, I hadn't actually changed my font to the correct one. So I was really looking for impact. So, and again, because of that, I need to actually change the box size again. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same for art. And this will be something that happens to everybody over time. Okay, so again, just going back to my direction tool, and I can see I've got a red warning sign there. So again, I'm just increasing that. And that's us got our main heading actually in. Okay, so now we're going to move into actually including other bits of text in the front page. So we're going to add in a part for things like your cover lines, where you would usually have kind of information about what's going to be inside the main magazine itself, and would usually have a release date and perhaps the price of the magazine as well. So we're going to work on that next. So for the purposes of today's demonstration, I haven't thought up of, elaborate content for within it. So for the purposes of this, we're just going to use the kind of template headings for cover line 1, 2, and so on. So again, I've drawn my text box there, and I'm just using the workspace at the side to basically input my information first before I start placing it into my main page. So I'm just going to type in here, cover line 1 template. And again, I'm just going to highlight it all, and then just to kind of start us off, we may tweak it obviously, but I'm going to actually put this at a 24 font, and I'm going to actually change my leading to around 24 as well, and we'll see what that's going to look like once we actually place it into the magazine. Again, we can see that it's hyphenated. I would sort of rather it not be hyphenated, so I'm just going to kind of tweak it a bit until I'm fairly happy, and I'm quite happy at that size. But again, what I want to do is make sure that we've got the appropriate font that's going to match. On this occasion, I'm quite happy to keep my font the same, so I'm going to be using Impact. So I'm just going to change it to actually be Impact there. And then what we're going to do is drag it across. And I'm just going to place it here for the moment. And again, as you can see, the default colour is black, but I'm going to change it to white because I think that will kind of help it pop a little bit there as well. So I'm fairly, quite happy with that. We could increase that if we really, felt that it could be doing with it. Maybe see what that would look like. Yeah, so I think I'll leave it at 30, still with a leading of 24, and that's essentially how we add in our first line there. Now what I could do is, if I wanted to have more of these cover lines within this front page as well, that were going to be very similar in nature in terms of font, sizing, etc., I could actually use a shortcut to kind of cheat this a wee bit, using the Option key on a Mac, and then just make sure I select it and drag it down, and that will enable me to essentially copy and paste it over. Now you've probably seen a lot of blue lines pop up, and that is just a really helpful thing that InDesign does to basically help see that you are aligned to other elements within your actual page. So that's actually a really helpful thing that it gives you there. So I'm going to just drop mines there, and I'm fairly pleased with that one. And then for my last one at the bottom of the left hand side, again, I'm just going to repeat that process. But this time what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this bigger. So I feel like I need it to kind of pop out a wee bit more. So I'm going to increase my box momentarily, and I'm going to actually make this one slightly larger in terms of its font size. So let's have a look. Now 48 might be a tad too big, so we'll try 40 and see how that looks. Now it's looking not too bad, but obviously we've got an issue with the actual leading itself. So let's have a little look and we'll see what we can come up with. So by changing that to around, I would say keeping it maybe at 39 is a good place to have that. So let's have a little preview of that. Now the good thing with this as well is that you can actually use the areas, the lines here, to actually help your own alignment. But other things that you can do if you're kind of struggling with that is you can actually use these rulers to help give you a guide. So you could, if you wanted to, just drag over a line from the ruler and just kind of check that they are actually aligned correctly. So just to show you that again, all you do is come over to the ruler area, click on it, and then you just drag. Okay, and that would be the same if you're wanting one from the top as well. Now we could also preview this, so that you could see it without all the lines and things like that, all your guides actually shown. To do that, I would just make sure that I'm clicked over here somewhere and I would press W on there just so that I could see it without all my kind of guides shown as well. So what we're going to do now is repeat this process, but we're going to put on some of these cover lines at the other side of the document as well. So to make my life easier, I'm just going to kind of use that option key, click on it, and I'm going to kind of copy that over. And I'm going to kind of try and get this to actually align. So when you see those blue snapping guides on, then you know you're good to go. But because we're at the right hand side of the document, this time we want to make sure that it's highlighted and make sure that we're changing the alignment to be right aligned on this occasion. So again, just going to repeat that process, but this time I'm going to copy from this one because I've already right aligned from that one. And again, I'm just using these blue marker lines to make sure that everything is lined up as it should be. So I'm quite happy with that one. The only thing that I feel I need to add in here is obviously the cost of the magazine. So I'm going to go back over to the type tool. I'll just create a new box. And again, let's just call it, that it was being released in March. And let's see, how much will we put in the price of our magazine? Why don't we say £4 for the magazine? Again, before I actually pop it onto the document, I'm just going to highlight it all. I'm going to actually remember this time to actually put it onto the correct font, which for me is going to be Impact. And then in terms of the actual sizing, we'll probably tweak this a little bit once we get it on to the document and we have a look at it. So why don't we pop it there for the moment? Now it is all black, so I need to obviously make sure that I highlight the document, the text, and then I'm going to change the colour to be white. Again, because it's at the right hand side of the actual bounding box, I want to make sure that I line it up to the right hand side. And then I'm just going to use my selection tool just to kind of tighten everything up for the box. And then I'm just going to move it over and preview that to see how I feel about that. Now I could move that around, somewhere else if I wanted. And again, these blue bounding boxes are going to actually help us to make sure that our alignment is actually correct. So for me, I'm quite happy actually having the price of it here quite bold. There are other things that you could do with your own documents, such as maybe adding in like a barcode or something like that you would usually see on magazines as well. But essentially that's been the front cover.